Welcome to the Configure Price Quote podcast. My name is Frank Sohn and I'm the founder of Novus CPQ Consulting. This podcast is 100% focused on Configure Price Quote, also known as CPQ, and will provide you useful insights into this topic. Hello everyone. Today we have a special episode of the CPQ podcast because we had so many announcements lately and we will have even more in June. So that's why we want to have a special episode to tell you a little bit about what's coming up. So we will start a webinar here in June. The date still has to be determined, but it's more likely to be at the end of June, where we will introduce the CPQ Briefing Subscription. For anyone that has downloaded the CPQ vendor and system integrator list we had on our website available for quite some time, that's the next step in that. So the CPQ vendor and system integrator list was downloaded over the years over 11,000 times. So now we want to have, instead of having the short information in the overview, we sit with each and every vendor for an hour, do a briefing with them, which includes short demos as well, and then we write the briefing document and make sure everything is factually corrected and make that available in English. We will only make that available when we have at least 15 briefing documents available. We're pretty close to that and working on that. And we will tell you even more in this dedicated webinar, where we will also be able to share some examples of these vendor documents. That is a subscription that should generate high interest based on what we see so far. So watch out for that. If you want to learn more, you can also send an email to info@novuscpq.com if you want to have a little bit more information about this, see who's already available, when it becomes available, and so on. But that will all happen rather quickly. But as I said, instead of trying to cover everything here, watch out for this webinar if you're interested in that and learn more about that. And there will also be some additional announcements. So if whoever doesn't want to listen to the podcast has a chance to read it. And afterwards, they will also have a chance to watch the video on YouTube if they like. Then we have more interest also in the CPQ Sales Report. That's a different report, has much more information, has 20 plus pages. Describes vendors. We currently have 6. We will have even one more by the time you listen to this. And we will also have a webinar, but that one will be focused on the German market. So since we see lots of interest in the US market, but they already know what it is in the German market, we haven't done that yet. So we may do that with some folks in Germany to run this webinar. So you can watch out for that if you want to listen to it in German. And we will have some announcements on that as well on different groups, right? And then the third webinar that we're planning for the June-July timeframe is to clarify the CPQ selection process, how that's used, how the different documents are used, how these subscriptions are mapped. And there will be a dedicated session to that as well. Just to give you some ideas, since we talked already about the briefing subscription, that's typically the first document somebody that's interested in a new solution, or they may also look for their first CPQ solution. That's the first document they're looking at. So, and one thing I probably should have mentioned for this briefing subscription is 80% of all the vendors that will have a 2-page document there will be CPQ vendors, and 20% will be adjacent solutions. So that could be visualization, that could be billing, that could be something else. But that's the idea. So if you're looking for these solutions, you see what these vendors do, and over time you will have more capabilities to already filter a little bit what you're looking for on the website. But that's not the case right now. So let's not get too far ahead of ourselves here. So that's for the briefing subscription, that's the first document. And what we can see right now is most of the time when customers really look at only 3 vendors or so, that's when the CPQ Sales Report comes more into play. That's a detailed document with around 20 pages that I recommend customers now to have a look at before we invite vendors to do the demos, learn a little bit more about them, see what kind of questions you want to ask them, and so on, so that you already save a little bit of time. So now I was running through this, and the reason was also because I know a couple of you mentioned that there were quite a number of announcements lately on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on YouTube, and so on. And I just want to get it all together for you so that you understand why these announcements are out there, what the different solutions are used for. And since I think we will not cover this sufficiently in just this short podcast, we will have these 3 dedicated webinars for 3 different kind of audiences. The first one is really to talk a little bit more about this briefing subscription. By the way, we will have 40 to 50 documents by the end of the year, and hopefully more. I think I had over 120 vendors mentioned in the CPQ vendor and system integrator list, and the goal is obviously to have all of them available at the subscription at one point. But hey, it requires considerable time, so therefore want to be realistic here. So 40 to 50 is already quite a lot, and we're shooting for that. And then the second one is to explain the CPQ Sales Report. You see more reports coming out also later this year, and want to make sure that anyone who's interested in that really understands what it's used for, when it's helpful. And then the third one is really any customer, any prospect who's looking for a new CPQ solution, who wants to have some information along the way. How can you work with Novus CPQ? And I know a couple of people don't like to talk to people right away, so at least they should know the subscription offerings from Novus CPQ. What are they and when should they be used? So we will have all of this there. Sorry for this short special podcast episode, but I hope it at least clarifies this a little bit, and we will continue in the following weeks with our regular podcast guest. Thank you very much, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone for listening and hope you learned something interesting today. If you like the podcast, please go ahead and rate it on iTunes or share it with your friends and colleagues. In the meantime, you can find us online at www.novuscpq.com. So long, everyone.